It's Ken Harbaugh with the MeidasTouch Network. Yesterday, Reuters reported that the majority of the gains made by Trump and his sons from their crypto earnings were reinvested into the stock market. The levels of corruption here are staggering. Retail investors in Trump's crypto venture lost massive amounts of money, nearly $2 billion, roughly what the Trump family brought in. That's not a coincidence. And then that money was used to buy stocks, often in companies that had direct dealings with the administration. One of the most shocking aspects of Trump's corruption is its brazenness. Here he is, flogging stock in Dell from the White House after having bought shares of it himself.
Go out and buy a Dell computer. He's not doing it for that. But I'll bet his business, Brad, has gotten even bigger. I have a son that loves their laptop. I have to tell you, no, I want a Dell. We're going to get him that money back one way or the other. And then I'll ask for another $6,250,000,000.
It gets worse because Trump's stake in Dell immediately preceded a massive government contract that skyrocketed the company's value.
The federal government, which he sits atop, is simultaneously handing companies like Dell massive government contracts. CNBC reports this, quote, "The Department of Defense announced a 5-year, roughly $9.7 billion deal with Dell to provide a suite of software to the U.S. military. It comes after Michael Dell, the founder and CEO of Dell Technologies, pledged $6.25 billion to fund investment accounts for children known as Trump accounts."
Donald Trump has made more stock trades during his second term than all other presidents combined, more than all of Congress combined. And he's done it with such utter shamelessness that it's almost as if he thinks no one cares. I think that is changing. Corruption used to be the kind of thing that insurgent political candidates railed against, but most voters didn't make a priority. But given the scale and the brazenness of Trump's corruption, measured against the real economic anxiety that Americans are now feeling, corruption is going to be a defining issue of the upcoming election. I spoke with Alex Vindman about this. He's a retired Army colonel who blew the whistle on the so-called perfect phone call that Trump had during his first term trying to extort President Zelensky of Ukraine. Colonel Vindman sacrificed his career to do what was right, delivering testimony before Congress that led to Trump's first impeachment. He has stayed in the fight ever since, and we've become friends. I think that comes across in this conversation. Alex is now running for Senate in Florida with a chance to unseat a Republican who was never, in fact, elected to that office. We're going to split this episode because Alex and I went kind of long. Here is part one of our conversation. Alex, thanks so much for joining us. One of the hallmarks of Trump's corruption is its brazenness. I mean, we've had corrupt presidents in the past, never at this scale, but the defining characteristic is just how shameless they are about it. I'm thinking about the stock trades, more stock trades, not only than any president in history, but than the rest of Congress combined, investing in companies that are doing business with the U.S. government. And then there's also the incompetence of it. You have this gift from the Qatari government, a multi-$100-million jet that doesn't even work. One of your priorities going to the Senate is going to be to rein this kind of thing in, to hold the fraudsters, the corrupt politicians accountable, and to implement some actual policies to make that happen, not just rhetoric. Can you talk about your priorities in that arena?
That's absolutely right. I think we have unchecked corruption at an unprecedented scale. And to me, it's something that's crystal clear that the electorate is voting on, is driven by, that no matter how hard they work, they're falling further and further behind because the system is rotten. There are corrupt career politicians that are happy to deliver $1 trillion in tax cuts, happy to deliver for power, happy to deliver for special interests because they're owned by the special interests. And you mentioned at the national level, but before I get there and do check it at the national level, I've got to figure out a solution to my own problem, which is unseating a corrupt career politician that is Ashley Moody. The same things that you mentioned are features of her own biography. She's taken more than $1 million from big insurance companies and given them a pass when they failed to pay their rates or surged rate hikes because she's owned by them. When she got to the reason that she's sitting in the Senate seat right now is she signed off on $10 million taken out of a child health and welfare fund to be transferred for a political ad campaign, and her payoff was the Senate seat. She did that as Attorney General. When she was appointed into that role, her first order of business wasn't, to deliver for the people of Florida. She executed to date, she's executed more than $2 million in stock trades on insider information only Congress gets. That should be illegal. I'm going to make sure it's illegal and people go to jail for that kind of stuff. She sits on the Health Services Committee, the Help Committee, oversees Big Pharma and trades Big Pharma stocks. Executed trades. There was a story just recently about her being making the most in terms of percentage in terms of stock trades based on her oversight of a tech stock that she then took a legislative action to support. So that to me is target number one. Yes, we need to do the big thing and make sure we have checks and balances, but I need to make sure that there's a clear case against my opponent, Ashley Moody, who is one of the most corrupt politicians. She made the list of End Citizens United top corrupt politicians for 2026, the same day that I received my endorsement for End Citizens United. Sorry, that's my dog saying hi.
But I'm going to keep.
Yeah,
I'm keeping
Rachel
the volume down
background
because my German Shepherd will will react to that.
That's my German Shepherd.
Oh, fantastic. We think alike. Do you think part of this is that Ashley Moody never had to campaign for Senate? She never had to travel the state and earn people's votes. She was granted the position as a favor. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but she wasn't elected to this role.
She was not elected. She was appointed into this role to fill a vacancy. She has none of the name recognition, but all of the baggage of the chaos, corruption, and costs that we're witnessing. And that's why we have a unique opportunity. I think, frankly, the bigger political world is not seeing what I'm seeing from inside this campaign. We've had 400,000 contributions, averaging less than $40. That's a huge amount of grassroots support. Inside Florida, my support comes not just from we have tens of thousands of supporters, but including in those numbers are thousands of registered Republicans and independents. That's what I'm seeing. Folks that are showing up and passionate about kicking to the curb, sending back home corrupt career politicians and bringing in a new breed of folks that are not beholden to special interests, that are going to be fighters for the people of Florida. And that's what's driving me forward.
Hey, it's Ken. Quick break to update you on the fundraiser for the 34th Coastal Defense Brigade in Ukraine. Because of you, we beat our goal. We've already initiated the purchase of the motor upgrade for their rescue boat, and we are assessing other urgent needs to direct the remaining funds towards. I cannot thank you enough. This was the first unit-specific fundraiser we've done here, and given its overwhelming success, I think we'll do more. Thanks again. Back to the show. I feel like corruption has finally broken through. For cycle after cycle, the political cognoscenti have said corruption's not a thing most Americans care about. But I think it might be a function of the economic times we're living in now. It is one thing to give politicians a pass when they're skimming a few percent, when you're doing okay as well. But when you can't put food on the table, when you can't make your car payments, I think the other thing might be just how open the corruption is these days, and the symbols we have for it, the examples we have throughout Washington, at least. You can tell me about Florida, but they are literally gilding statues as Americans are struggling to put food on the table. The president, as I mentioned in the opener, literally accepted a $400 million bribe from the Qatari government that doesn't work. It's tough to ignore that kind of thing, especially in an environment when Americans are hurting so badly themselves.
That's exactly right. I think, it is a part of almost every news cycle, the rampant corruption at the national level. It is a part of most of the news cycles here in Florida. When the local, it's a big state, 23 million people, but it's a story that gets picked up on a regular basis. There's a unfortunate kind of label. Florida's a sunny place for shady people. We're going to change that. So I think it should be, a fair opportunity for everybody. And I think that what I'm seeing is a connection to lived experience here, that folks are working really hard, doing everything right to deliver for their families, but falling further and further behind. And that, to me, is what's creating a bit of a wake up call and a desire for fresh faces, independent minded veterans like myself, folks that are not in the pockets of special interests, that have a record of delivering for the American people, whether it's on national security or going forward on making life a little bit easier and reviving the American dream. That's what I'm focused on. I mean, I took the 250th anniversary of our Independence Day as a special opportunity to both celebrate this awesome and unique country, but also to revive and revitalize the American dream going forward for all Americans and Floridians. And that's what's driving me, is not just looking backwards and figuring out, addressing problems that we could see today, but also going forward and looking at the issues that we have that we need in order to make sure that our kids have a prosperous future.
I don't know about you, but I took incredible encouragement, comfort from watching the America 250, not the official celebration, but the backyard celebrations, the way my community rose to honor the 250th year of our existence, almost in defiance of the Trump administration's attempt to co-opt it. For as bad as the Great American State Fair was on the National Mall, in backyards and public spaces where Trump was not throughout the country, there was a real celebration of America's 250th birthday, and importantly, of the next 250 years. That to me is the critical thing. Patriotism has got to become about more than just celebrating what America is. It's about, as Frederick Douglass said, the unfinished promise. It's about what we need to hold America accountable for and expect of it.
I think it's a bit of a common thread for folks that have served to understand that this is that we do have something very special and unique, but it is a unfinished project. And I think for me, it's about exercising a little bit of critical patriotism, understanding our the beautiful aspects of the country, but where we've continued to fall short, and make sure that we're delivering for more Americans. I think part of the story that we've seen over the course of the past years are too many folks being left behind. A chasm between the folks that are really doing well and the folks that are falling further behind, and that the American dream doesn't touch as many folks as it needs to, and therefore people don't participate or act on grievance. So to me, it's the whole thing. It's recognizing that we are special and unique. And I've seen it, whether it's in combat, serving in Russia, at the U.S. Embassy, operating inside an authoritarian regime. My family's history of coming here as refugees, fleeing from the Soviet Union, recognizing that we are a wonderful country, but we're still working to create that more perfect union. So that's absolutely. I know that's what's driving both of us.
That was part one of my conversation with Alex Vindman. Check out part two on Thursday. See you then.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.